trade where the market's more cleaner, where it's more likely to yield to you favorable price delivery versus back and forth price action. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that in a moment. But notice that we did trade down to the new week opening gap high. This is current week. That's this one here. And we failed to get down to consequent encroachment of the current new week opening gap. So if we take this one and this one, take that off, this is what the new week opening gap looks like right now for this current week. So it's rather large, okay? And we did not trade down to consequent encroachment of the present current new week opening gap. And obviously we haven't traded down to the low either. But inside of that, we have last week's new week opening gap. And notice that it's in the lower half of the current new week opening gap. When I see stuff like this, okay, it promotes the idea that it's not enough to expect it to trade down to the new week opening gap high. That's reasonable. That's like a low-hanging fruit objective. So Caleb is being taught that whatever level is first when you're looking for a short, meaning that we have two new week opening gaps here. This could just as well be a new day opening gap clustering. So there's very close overlapping, if you will, gaps. So there's going to be a lot of return back into this area of all these levels, as a whole. But the larger of them, meaning that if we're looking for a short up here, or as he's being trained to do it, he would not hold for consequent encroachment of the current new week opening gap. It's not in his model. He wouldn't hold for the high of last week's new week opening gap. He wouldn't look for the consequent encroachment of last week's new week opening gap, which would be between these two purple lines, and he would not look for the current new week opening gap low. Why? Because he's being trained to take the first low-hanging fruit objective. That means the first profitable exit using the strategy, meaning if you're short, which is the first new week opening gap high level you're going to get to. And as soon as you trade to it, plus a spread of 1 or 2 ticks, he gets out. He doesn't hold for the best exit. He doesn't hold for the maximum amount of money if he's right. See, he's removing the necessity about being perfect with his exits. When I was struggling in the brand new stages of my career in 1990s, my first problem was entries. I was afraid to enter. I was afraid that I'd be wrong. I was afraid I was going to miss trades. Everything compounded into a problem. So I had to desensitize myself to never fearing, never having a problem about finding a setup to get me into a trade. So I have lots of ways to get into a trade. And eventually it became a problem for me to be content with my profitable exits. So you all have seen me trading. You've seen my executions. You see how I do partials when I do them. You see how I trade my stop loss. You see all these things. Okay. And to the layperson, to someone that has been trading for a while, they can appreciate that measure of number one, precision, trade management, and it looks really, really good. And it is. It took lots of time to get to that, but it wasn't easy getting to that stage. And truth be told, and I've said this many times candidly, I am not happy and I'm not satisfied with my exits. That's still my weak point. I believe there's a whole lot more room in there for me to improve that. And I'm cognizant of the effects of the pursuit of perfection being an illusion. Okay, you're never going to reach that. But as long as I'm alive and I have mental faculties, I'm going to try to pursue it. Okay, it's not going to make it worse. It's just going to make me strive to do better. And the day I stop striving to do better is what's the point of being around here then, right? That I want to be better than I was yesterday all the time. And I have models that work very, very well, but I'm never going to be satisfied ever until I can't do it anymore. So one of the things that I had to overcome was this argument I always held within myself in my journals. And I said to myself that I was not satisfied with that trade exit because it went it went 50 handles more, or well, not really so much back then when I was trading, it didn't move that much, but it went like 5 handles beyond where I was trying to take my profit. I wanted to figure out why I was not willing or why I didn't see that it was going to reach that much further there than where I was. And it took a great deal of time to just go back and see that I would beat myself up in my journal. I would punish myself. I would talk down to myself. I would be very, very critical of myself. And then that critical evaluation I would give myself on a day by day, trade by trade basis in my journal, it would stick with me in my workday. And I would find myself literally saying the things I said in my journal out loud in my own voice, saying, "Yeah, you really messed that up. You were foolish. You didn't do this correct. You didn't do that." And I never ever spoke positively about myself in the beginning, which is why I teach you not to do those things in your journal, because that was a hindering factor for me. It held me back a lot, and it caused a whole lot of quagmire in this muddy terrain that kind of like sludge through and not get any kind of real traction or gain any new ground in understanding or prowess. It was bogging me down. So one of the things I told myself was, let me go back and see, what am I doing consistently when I have exits that are profitable? And I found that I was usually exiting, admittedly at the time, through fear that it was going to turn around on me. And it has moved enough. So I learned to be content with enough. You remember that slogan? Be content with enough. I had to force that perspective on myself by going back and looking at my journals and saying, okay, the trades that I was winning consistently in, predominantly most of them were me closing before my targets. I would have a hard line target. It would be, if it goes to this level here, it'll limit me out at that price level.